Hi and welcome. My name is Brad Hubbard. I'm the Alpha Coordinator here at St. Anne. And we continue with our series of sharing your story. And I'm here with Sarah Gulas. And welcome, Sarah.
Thank you.
And we just like to hear a little bit about your story and kind of where you kind of got started in your faith journey, and then what's kind of brought you back here to our area and kind of what you've been involved in since. So I want to start off with just share a little bit about your faith journey and kind of how that got going.
Yeah, cool. I was born in Coppell, born and raised, and I was a parishioner at St. Anne from the time I was little. But around high school, I kind of got involved in the party scene of high school. That's kind of where I found my identity. And that ended going over into college as well. So just everything that you can imagine would come with the party lifestyle was what I found myself involved in. And the deeper I got in that, just the more depressed I was and the more anxious I was. And I finally found myself in a chapel one day. And my sophomore year of college is where I heard the Lord in my prayer just kind of say to me that he would never fall out of love with me, that he would never abandon me. And I realized the Lord had a very real heart that ached for me. And so from that moment, my sophomore year, I got involved in a Bible study, and I started getting more involved in the church in my college town. And it inspired me to start leading a Bible study for other girls on my college campus who are perhaps dealing and battling with the same sort of battles, which then propelled me to become a missionary. So I started working for an organization called Focus, and I was a missionary for 3 years at the University of Oklahoma State in Stillwater.
Great. And so what brought you back to the Coppell area, to DFW area, and what have you been doing since?
Yeah, so I ended up leaving Focus after 3 years, and I moved to Fort Worth to start teaching at a school for learners with Down syndrome. It was a little Catholic school, so it was a way for me to continue to do something that was involved with the church, but I got to do what I went to college for, which was working with special needs. So I got to do that. And then recently in January of 2020, I moved back to Coppell, and I am now in grad school getting my counseling degree.
Okay, and so you moved back into the area, and someone kind of mentioned to you about the Alpha course. So tell us a little bit about your experience with Alpha.
Yeah, so when I moved back to Coppell, none of my high school friends were here because I just wasn't a part of a good group of friends. So I came back to Coppell, and I just knew really no one. It had been, since before college that I was here. And so, yeah, I talked to someone, and a few people mentioned to me, you should join Alpha. And the place I was in January was it was actually kind of a low for me. I think once I left my job with Focus as a missionary, I kind of hit a new rock bottom for me and where I was at. I was no longer living out mission in a very radical way. I was no longer surrounded by a good group of people striving to grow in their faith like I was used to. And I think a lot of shame from my high school and early college years just kind of found its way back into my life, because I no longer was distracted, and I was no longer doing the things I found to be holy. And so I kind of went back into, I'm not good. I'm this bad person that I was, and being a Focus missionary just kind of covered that up. And I just didn't really know who I was. And like I said, a lot of shame creeped back into my life. And I was very isolated moving back to Coppell. And so when I was told to join Alpha, I thought, okay, this will be a good way to get involved. and I need community. I don't know anyone, and I'm just kind of in this dead end spot where I didn't have a lot of life or a lot of joy. So I joined Alpha.
And so, what was your experience like, and how did the Holy Spirit kind of meet you during that course?
Yes. So my Alpha experience was really amazing. Like I said, I didn't know a lot of people, um, but it Alpha created a space for me to go and my confusion and my loneliness and my isolation, and it gave me just a safe space, where no one had any expectations. It wasn't a Bible study, so I didn't feel this kind of temptation to prove that I knew Jesus or prove that I was holy. It was just a very safe space to go and kind of, for me personally, to say to the Lord, like, I've kind of lost myself, and I feel like I've kind of lost you. And if you want to show up here, do it. Um, and so it just became a safe place for me to go and just like be exactly where I was, and not feel judged or pressured by anyone. And the night that really changed kind of the direction that I was going was the night where the Alpha video invited each person, if they wanted to kind of say a prayer inviting Jesus into their heart. The prayer, Jesus knocks on the door, of your heart, and you have to answer it. And I just kind of told Jesus, like, we've been here before and I've asked you into my heart before, but now I have all this shame. And I honestly really felt like maybe Jesus wouldn't want to knock on the heart of my door. But that night I prayed that prayer, and it was just very raw and very real in a way it hadn't been in a very long time. And I, in my own space, it was in the dark, the video was on, and I just cried. And I told Jesus, like, come on, like, bring it. And nothing crazy happened that night, except that I got to share that experience with my group. But as the days and weeks and months went on, I have just experienced a lot more authentic joy and peace and healing that I kind of, go back to that night and see it kind of all started there,
Yeah. And so, transitioning out of Alpha, you're now helping to facilitate an online group.
Yes.
So tell me how that's going. You're the leader for an online group. So tell me how that experience has been for you.
Yeah. Like I said, having Alpha just gave me the space to be who I was and just be with community and not isolated. And so I wanted to provide that for other people because it really helped me, from the beginning of the year until now. So I started leading a group that's online, and it's very similar. We go over the Sunday readings, but it's, hey, let's just sign on to Zoom, and where are you? How are you? What have been your highs? What have been your lows? Do you think Jesus has been saying anything to you? And how has this journey been for you? And it's funny because in Alpha and in this online group, I have a friend who is in Alpha and this online group, and even before Alpha, each Thursday we would text each other and say, like, oh, I don't really want to go. Like, oh, me neither. Okay, but I'll go if you go. And we'd go, and then it would end, and we would sit in her car and be like, that was so awesome. Like, we're so glad we went. And it's kind of similar with the online group. Like, no one, it's hard to put something and add something into your schedule when you're not really sure what the outcome will be. And so even now, each week, it's kind of like, oh, like, something else to add to the schedule. But by the time we sign off on Zoom, we're all texting each other, that was so good. Like, thank you for coming. So I think we all just need community, and a community that allows you to just come as you are with no pressure or judgment. So that's been really what I've loved about it.
So thank you so much for sharing your story. Is there anything in closing that you wanted to add?
I've read a lot on, like, St. Anne's website about the quarantine kind of allowing us to shift our view of the church. We so often think of the church as a building, but we as people, as community, like we are the church. And I've just really seen that through Alpha and online group, just saying, Lord, how can I encounter you? And him kind of showing me like through these people in your life, like that's how you can encounter me. So that's been really cool to see.
Great. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to join us today, and just blessings and as you continue to grow closer to God.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.